After receiving an anonymous tip-off, two policemen pay a visit to an old house because the neighbors are bothered by the loud music being played inside. However, when they open the door, they hear some screams and realize that all that noise is being used to mask a possible crime. Immediately, Williams and Blaine draw their guns and storm the place to try and rescue the victim. As they walk down the corridor, the pair come across numerous bloodstains, and when they finally find the woman who was screaming, they both realize that she is seriously injured. Just then, Jacob appears with an axe in hand and eliminates Blaine with a single blow. Williams is then attacked and loses part of his left arm. However, before his head is hit, the man pulls the trigger and manages to scare the criminal away. Seconds before collapsing from blood loss, Williams uses the radio to call for backup and manages to save himself and the victim, who has had her eyes removed. Minutes later, several cars arrive at the scene and detectives begin to analyze the bodies found in the house. Both the policemen who shot the criminal and the victim were rescued alive from the scene, but another 7 bodies that had had their eyes removed were dug up from the property. 4 years later, Williams was able to change jobs due to his limitation and now works in the juvenile detention center. The policeman is responsible for keeping troublemakers in line, and together with Hannah, he takes a group of boys and girls to do community work, so that they can reduce their sentences. Each of these young people has been sent to the detention center for a different reason, including theft, assault, and selling illegal substances. On their way to the Blackwell Hotel, Tyson and Michael start fighting and exchanging punches on the bus. Noticing the commotion, Williams rushes to separate them and says that if there are any more disagreements, they will all go back to the reformatory. Minutes later, the group arrives at the abandoned building and is greeted by Margaret, a government employee who works in the restoration of historic buildings. According to her, the property was donated a few years ago and now the woman and her team are planning to reopen the hotel with the aim of turning it into a homeless shelter. It was to carry out this restoration service that these young people were summoned and decided to volunteer for the job, discovering that for every 3 days of voluntary work, they will get 30 days off their sentence. During the tour of the property, Margaret reveals that Mr. Blackwell built the hotel with the aim of turning it into a place of entertainment for him and his friends. The building is rumored to have secret passageways and mirrors everywhere, but Margaret has never found any of these. She says that the suites on the 2nd floor have almost all been refurbished and volunteers will be able to stay in them. Margaret also warns about the penthouse and says that the 8th and 9th floors are restricted areas because they are very dangerous. In 1971, a fire destroyed both floors and took the lives of Mr. Blackwell and his wife. As the hotel was built more for entertainment purposes than to make money, the building was never restored. After receiving their assignments, the volunteers split up to start cleaning, but as soon as they start working they realize that there is something wrong with the place. While dusting with a broom, Christine senses someone nearby and walks through the corridors in an attempt to find out who it is. Suddenly, the door to one of the rooms opens and the young woman is dragged inside. Seeing Kira, Christine feels relieved and discovers that her colleague is planning to escape through the window. The detail that Kira missed is that the window leads straight out onto the patio, so if they decide to jump, they will still be trapped inside the property. Frustrated at seeing her escape plan fall apart, Kira sits down on the bed to rest for a while, at which point the door opens. Seeing the girls standing around not doing their work, instead of scolding them, Williams decides to join them, and after grabbing a cigarette, he leaves. While cleaning the 2nd floor, Richie finds the floor plan of the building and shares his discovery with Tyson. At this point, they both discover that the rumors about the existence of secret passages are true and decide to go after Mr. Blackwell's safe, which has been lost in that hotel for over 35 years. Later, during dinner, Melissa meets a dog and decides to share her food with it. However, on seeing the animal, Michael throws his soda can at it to scare it away. As well as being insane, Michael was arrested for selling illegal substances and caused the arrest of Kira, who was his girlfriend at the time. That night, when Michael and Russell leave to go to the penthouse, Richie and Tyson get up to explore the hotel's secret passages. While she's taking a shower to go to sleep, Kira realizes she's being watched by someone and gets scared. Michael then opens the door and attacks his ex-girlfriend, but Christine appears just in time and orders him to stay away from her friend. Afraid of being reported, the man decides to leave, and even after finding out what happened, Zoe decides to go to meet him together with Melissa, who is in love with Russell. Meanwhile, Williams and Hannah are chatting on the 1st floor without even imagining what the young volunteers are up to upstairs. When they reach the 8th floor, the pair come across the body of a victim who apparently hasn't been there long. At this point, Richie begins to wonder how the man got there, given that the building has been closed for years. While checking the victim's pockets, Tyson notices that his eyes have been removed and is startled. Convinced that some sinister criminal is behind this, Richie runs away frightened in an attempt to find a way down to the first floor, but ends up being found by Jacob. As soon as the elevator door opens, the criminal uses a chain to capture Richie, and after hitting him with the hook, Jacob drags his new victim into the elevator. Seeing his friend being dragged by the leg, Tyson is paralyzed with fear and can't help him. Then, when the elevator door closes, he goes after Williams to call for help. After hearing the elevator moving, Margaret goes to talk to those responsible for the teenagers and says that they are not in their rooms. At this point, Hannah gets up and walks to the elevator to go after them, but realizes that there is no one inside. After entering the elevator, the woman presses the button that should take her to the second floor, but realizes that she is going to the penthouse. When she reaches the 8th floor, the door opens, and as Hannah waits for the door to close again so she can go down, Jacob appears. After eliminating the woman by slamming her head against the ceiling, the man throws her to the floor a few times to check that she has indeed been eliminated, and then removes her eyes with his own fingers. Meanwhile, Michael and his friends are climbing the stairs to the penthouse while Christine helps Kira find a way out of the property. After suggesting a possible way out, Christine says goodbye to her friend because she doesn't want to go with her. The young woman ran away from home because of her stepfather, so she has nowhere else to go, but she supports Kira in her decision. To get to the courtyard, the young girl has to climb through one of the kitchen windows, and when she tries to open it, she has an accident. The sound of Kira falling to the floor attracts the attention of Williams and Margaret, who rush into the kitchen to see what's going on. Seeing her friend in trouble, Christine runs to distract the policeman, at which point Kira sees the food elevator opening. Frightened, she tries to run, but ends up slipping and falling to the ground. At that moment, Jacob sees the perfect opportunity to capture her and manages to hook Kira's shoulder. The criminal then drags the young woman into the elevator. Hearing her friend screams, Christine rushes to the kitchen to help her, but she's too late. When he realizes that the young woman has been captured, William starts a rescue plan and asks Christine to check that all her colleagues are in their rooms. At this point, the girl is forced to reveal their secret and tells them that everyone has gone to the penthouse. Worried about what might happen to these young people, the policeman decides to go after them and calls the elevator to get to the terrace faster. Meanwhile, he orders Margaret to call the police station for backup and Christine decides to accompany Williams. As they enter the elevator, they notice that the ceiling is covered in blood and the policeman reaches for his gun, realizing that he is dealing with a real threat. After exiting the elevator, they walk attentively down the 8th floor corridor and come across Tyson. The young man then reveals that Richie has been captured and describes the criminal's appearance. Upon hearing the description, Williams goes into shock as he realizes that he is after the same man who cut off his hand 4 years ago. Although the criminal was never found by the police, Williams was confident that he couldn't have survived being shot several times that day. When he realizes that Jacob might be in that building, the policeman orders the 2 youngsters to flee up the stairs and do whatever it takes to get out of the hotel. Meanwhile, Williams goes out to look for the other young people before they too end up being captured by this guy. However, as soon as he opens the door to start the search, the policeman sees a hook coming towards him and is caught by the jaw. After being dragged upstairs, William comes across the criminal and starts shooting, but ends up being eliminated before he can get rid of his enemy. As the policeman's body falls to the ground, Christine takes the gun from his hand and runs off with Tyson. At that moment, Michael and the others are resting in one of the penthouse rooms and have no idea that they are being watched by a giant who is devising a plan to capture them all. After talking for a while, Russell invites Melissa to accompany him to the 7th floor and they are both alone for a romantic moment. When she wakes up, Kira realizes that she is trapped in a kind of cage next to the body of a girl. Terrified, she starts looking around for a way out, but all she sees are bodies scattered everywhere. Among them, Hannah's body and Richie's tied up a few meters away. Hearing the young woman screaming for help, Jacob enters the room and approaches her. However, his attention is stolen by Richie, who suddenly wakes up and starts trying to free himself from the handcuffs. At that moment, the criminal approaches him and mercilessly removes his eyes. Jacob then drags Kira into the bathroom and turns on the shower to torment her, just like his mother did when he was young. However, the man spots a large cross tattoo on her back and gives up on eliminating her. Just then, Jacob hears one of his bells ringing and realizes that someone is hiding on the 7th floor. During her time alone with Russell, Melissa looks in the bedroom mirror and realizes that there is something wrong with it. Noticing her discomfort, he gets up to investigate and realizes that it's a fake mirror. Just then, Jacob appears and the couple manage to escape. When they realize they're being chased, they enter a warehouse and lock the door so that the criminal can't reach them. Immediately, Russell starts looking for a way out and discovers that the window could lead them out of the property. After rummaging through the shelves, he finds a fire hose and ties it around Melissa's body so that she can climb down. While helping her downstairs, Russell is attacked from behind, and after eliminating him, Jacob begins to pull Melissa back up. As she tries to free herself, the girl slips and is tied up by her feet. At that moment, the criminal lets go of the rope and she falls headfirst into the glass ceiling. Luckily, the rope stops before she hits the ground, but Melissa still hurts herself and breaks her hand during the fall. Just then, she sees the dog she tried to feed during dinner and it seems to be attracted to her blood. Soon after, several other hungry dogs appear, all following the scent of blood, and begin to devour the young woman. After removing Russell's eyes, Jacob goes after the other survivors and is about to strike Zoe, when Michael pushes her away and strikes his enemy. Despite being smaller and weaker, the young man is extremely agile and has experience in street fighting, so he manages to take down the bald, pumped-up man. He then drags Zoe by the arm and they both manage to hide, forcing Jacob to search every room for them. After searching every corner of room 810, the criminal finds no one and leaves. However, as he's leaving, Zoe's cell phone rings and reveals her location. After capturing the young woman, Jacob shoves the phone into her mouth and forces her to swallow it. At this point, the young woman faints and is dragged out of the room. Meanwhile, Christine and Tyson remain hidden, and on hearing someone approaching, the girl decides to shoot. Luckily, Michael manages to hide before being hit by the bullets and joins the pair in trying to get out of that place alive. When they hear the sound of the elevator descending, the three survivors prepare for a collective attack, but when the doors open, they realize that there is no one inside. They then discover that this was just a strategy used by Jacob to distract them, as the criminal had been hiding on the other side of the wall the whole time. As soon as Jacob appears, Christine pulls the trigger, but fails to hit him. After the young woman is knocked down, Michael goes after his adversary and uses a pipe to try to knock him down, but ends up being defeated. When the young man collapses, Tyson drags Christine into the elevator and tries to escape with her, but Jacob starts pounding on the door. Looking up, Tyson sees an emergency exit and manages to climb out. He then pulls his friend up and uses a taser to stop the man from going after them. Before running towards the exit, the pair decide to go after Kira and end up in a room full of money stuck to the walls. At this point, Tyson realizes that Richie was right about the safe and has the brilliant idea of gathering all that money. While observing every detail of the room, Christine spots some jars full of water and discovers that this is where Jacob keeps the eyes he uses to remove his victims. When she hears her friend screams, she immediately goes after her and enlists Tyson's help to find the room where Kira is being held. As soon as they enter the room, the two young people smell the terrible odor of the bodies of the criminal's victims and are terrified to see Richie and Hannah in their midst. Just then, the trio hears Jacob's footsteps approaching, so Christine looks for a place to hide with the promise that she will return to rescue her friend. Just as the man is about to open the cage to eliminate Kira, Christine and Tyson start breaking the glass containers where he keeps his collection of eyes and attract Jacob's attention. As soon as he leaves the room, Christine rushes to open the cage and free Kira. The problem is that Jacob has taken the keys, so she has to find another way to open the lock. Seeing the monster approaching, Tyson comes out of hiding and tries to use the taser to knock him out, but ends up being captured by his enemy and becomes a victim of his own weapon. After immobilizing the young man, Jacob uses a piece of metal furniture to smash his body against the wall and goes to find Kira. Suddenly, Christine hears someone opening the door and hides again, but when she sees Margaret approaching, Kira feels relieved. However, she soon discovers that Margaret is the mastermind behind all the chaos and has lured the young people to that hotel precisely to become her son's victims. When she discovered that Williams had survived after shooting Jacob, Margaret decided to take revenge and used the hotel's volunteer service as an excuse to lure him away. For decades, the old woman used her own son as a weapon to get rid of those she thought were sinners and made Jacob believe that all those people had been eliminated in the name of God. However, when he saw the tattoos of a cross all over Kira's body, the man gave up on eliminating her, and when his mother picked up a gun to do the job, Jacob decided to stop her. During the fight, the man remembers all the times his mother forced him to eliminate other people and then remove the eyes of all the victims right in front of him until it became something normal for him. After looking back over his entire past, Jacob realizes the truth and comes to the conclusion that his mother is evil itself incarnate. So he makes the difficult decision to eliminate her and throws her against the metal rods that are sticking through the wall. After getting rid of the old woman, Jacob goes into crisis mode and captures Kira from her cell. Worried about her friend's fate, Christine takes the gun that was in Margaret's possession and goes after the criminal. When she finds him, the young woman realizes that the man is hallucinating while rocking in a chair. At that moment, Christine realizes that the only way to free Kira is to eliminate Jacob. So she slowly approaches him and pulls the trigger. As she does so, the girl discovers that her pistol is out of ammunition, and on hearing that sound, the giant beast wakes up from its slumber. When he realizes that those girls were trying to eliminate him, Jacob is furious and decides to get rid of them, so he uses his giant hands to lift them up by their necks, and just as Christine is about to lose her eyes, Michael appears. Seeing the girls in danger, the young man hits the criminal on the head with a metal pipe and starts a fight with him. At that moment, Michael orders the girls to flee and uses an axe to strike Jacob in the leg. While the girls look for a place to hide, Michael continues his attack and strikes the man in the head, further opening the bullet wound caused by Williams 4 years ago. Even though his leg is badly injured, Jacob decides to go after the last 3 survivors and is lured into a trap. When he enters the room, the big man checks to see if they've jumped out of the window and suffers a joint attack from behind. With Christine's help, Michael pushes the monster out of the window, but it manages to hold on to the outside and grabs the young woman. At this point, Jacob tries to pull Christine down with him, but Michael strikes his enemy's hand and forces him to let go. When the man tries to climb back up, the girl uses the pipe to hit him in the eye and the bald man suffers a fall from a height of 20 meters that finally culminates in his destruction. After retrieving the keys from Margaret's pocket, Michael and the girls finally manage to get out of the hotel to inform the police about the trap they have fallen into inside that terrible hotel. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.